So, Caucasus are in fact diseased Nagaru. Look at caucus and carcass, or from French carcasse, dead body or deteriorated flesh. Then add Asian, a deteriorating Indian, why they call themselves Aryans, from Sanskrit for the Dravidians, meaning noble. The Dadu, Dravidians, are a race of Southeast Indians. So they are called Asiatic blacks. That is dark-skinned, curly-furred Indians. So yes, that is the actual fact. The Mukasu are diseased Nagaru, being the Dravidians, come from us. Now, can their disease be cured? Any and all physical diseases can be cured. And how does one cure them? Sorry, yet it's up to them to cure themselves, and only they can heal their actions of evil, to all others. Many thousands of years before the year 4004 BCE, which was 6,000 years from the year 2000 AD, there were many visitors. Muziad Muthattalat, extraterrestrials from Kamahat, Pleiades star system, seen as the Pleiades 7-star cluster. They have been visiting this Kawak planet, and their appearance is tall in height, up to 9 feet, with transparent skin hue, being that on their planets, many live under the surface or beneath its waters away from their star or sun's rays. They are pale with stringy fur, and their eyes are colorless, and they are able to shape-shift and transform into a ghost state. They are the Elohim, or gods, God of the Torah, Gospel, and Quran. They are also seen as spirits, angels, and ghosts. They are good to their offspring who worship and serve them. Good to whom they are using for offerings of flesh and blood and souls, or your essence, your divine nectar that is in the fluids of Nagaru, and some that mixed with them. They are jawed, wicked, or da'u, evil, to all others. So they created religion as laws, or lawi tanan, Leviathan, rules and regulation. They bred with Caucasus, crossbred with animals too, such as canines, dogs, simians, monkeys, and hogs, porcines, to breed hybrids for body parts for their workers, or homo simians, ape-man, homo canines, lichens, hunters, homo porcines, and they made the pig from a canine, a feline and a rodent, to clean up the dead flesh, filth of the caves in the Caucasus Mountains. So they crossbred these hybrids. The god of gods in their religions are these, and other extraterrestrial visitors who have been coming, or their sons come as demigods or angels, Christ, world over in all religions. That's the fact. They are and can be both good and evil world over. They still visiting Earth, today called UFOs and USOs, flying and submerging in waters to this very day, and increased from 2000 AD. Their rapture is really a sad day for them, yet they don't know that fact. Millions of them go missing each year. They never see them. Don't know where they have been taken. The overlords of them use TV to say it's always sexual predators who took them, when it's not. It's food for their gods, and the highest government officials have made deals with them in exchange for technology. It was Hitler's officers who put America in contact with ETs from the Andromeda star system, and Aldebaran who offered them to Drago's reptilians. Sad yet true. We have our own extraterrestrial visitors called Nibiru, misspelled Netaru. So it is Pa Nibiru Fef Nibiru who came from Sa'at, Orion, and SABAT-U, Sirius, star systems. These they bred from their own DNA mixing Pa Manjaru. They are, and can be, both good or evil. Every 10 years they check on you, or send grays to check. Regularly, 3 little friends will incarnate to me, Krill, Alamar, and Sayat, grays who have been with me since childhood in Teaneck, when they first came and took me. Our Nibiru also incarnated to the noble Laditi, the mother of Nefar Kafir Ray Wahan Ray, who became known as Akhenaten and Amunhetep Pa Rabin. Amenhotep IV was a demigod, half human by his father and half extraterrestrial by his mother. And he took a wife, a humanoid named Kia, to birth a 1/3 extraterrestrial who was called Jehutwiankhamun, originally named Nabab Kafir Ray, called Tutankhamun or King Tut. He was born to be the Kharast or Christ, reincarnation of Harar, son of Ashtat by Amun Ray. The real son of God, son of a human being, man. By his father equals a son of deity, by his mother equals son of man, or mortal being. He is a demi-deity. His father got the blood from the Habaru, Hebrews, and their deity Adonai, who in Kamam, Egypt, was Atun Re, Adon. A race of extraterrestrials who the Habaru, Hebrews, and Shasasu, Israelites, worshipped and mixed blood with. So the blood was passed on to Akhenaten from his mother T, who was the daughter of Uya, Joseph, son of Jacob in the Bible, and his Egyptian wife Tuya in Bible, as Asenath, Genesis 41:41-52. So the blood was mixed in Egypt, and Asenath's son was called A the second in Egypt, that was Ephraim brother of Manasseh. And I's name was Kafir Kafaru Ray. This A the second, and was the father of Nefartat Twi, known as Nefertiti, also called Nefartat Nefartatu Adun. She was one half extraterrestrial, so the golden child or Christ could not come from her and be a true Demi deity as Akhenaten was. So you see, yes, there are many on record. You will see he was a he-she, or better a Muknash, hermaphrodite. And his extraterrestrial consort Nefertiti was a Muknashtat, hermaphrodite. They were to open the Dawam, vortex or gateway, from the new site called Tel El Amarna, or Akat Atun, which means horizon of Atun. Before Akhenaten could complete the gateway and put the golden child, Tutankhamun, living image of a moon or hidden, unseen one, and 4 hermaphrodites in place, he was killed. Tutankhamun had an accident and was left to die by A II so he could take the throne. Extraterrestrials have existed throughout our history. There are many that come and go. Some stay beneath the Mayat, waters, others in caverns in the Taha, earth, others come and go to Sa'at, Orion, and Sabat-U, Sirius. Others are in planet-like crafts above looking on. These crafts are 72,000 miles in circumference. Within each was constructed 50 crafts a half mile by a half mile each. Greek Strong's 1391, John 1:14, they incarnate, Exodus 19:9-20. And inside of them are 1,500 smaller cylindrical shaped crafts, 30 feet by 15 feet, Zechariah 5:1-2 and in Exodus 14. Exodus 14:19, and the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them, and the pillar of the cloud went from before their face, and stood behind them. And these smaller crafts are sent back and forth to protect you, Psalm 68:17, the chariots of God, are, 20,000, even, thousands of angels, the Lord, is, among them, as in, Sinai, in the holy place. This is why you don't hear of many Afef Re Kahu, Africans, or Nagaru, Negroids, getting abducted or going missing, unless they gave their soul to Caucasu, who can't even protect themselves. You have not been taught these facts about self and kind because you chose to reject any facts about self and kind, for the beliefs of other races, who will not and cannot teach anything other than lies. It's their very nature from their God. The liar of all liars. Killer of all killers. John 8:44, ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar, and the father of it. Evil, wicked by nature, Nanner, also called sin. Not sin as wickedness, no, it's an Akkadian word sin. You all find him in Bible, Genesis 4:7 as Hebrews Strong's 2903, Kata. Zuin, Sun, Sion, Zion met on Mount Sinai. He was a Yahweh known as El Shaddai, Exodus 6:3, of the Anunnaki, cherub of cherubim, Genesis 3:22-24, their Yahweh, Jah, Allah, Rab rides on wings of the cherub, Psalm 18:6-11, Psalm 99:1-2, Psalm 104:3-26, son of Enlil and Ninlil. Different extraterrestrials came to each race of people. It has to do with tone, vibrations on the same frequency and modulation. To the Mongoloids or Asians came Wande from the sky, to the Caucasoids or Europeans came Odin, to the Negroids or Africans came Ptah, and many subraces by much seed mixing of these 3 visitors over many thousands of years of Earth records, each has left signs they were here. Negroids are the ancient Egyptians, and it is encoded in your 24,000 DNA strands genomes of your genes, chromosomes. We implanted it as the Demi deity called Horus, Heru, which is Harar, so it's included and is called by you or will be, Har-1, unique to humanoids. Now through mixing, Caucasoids have it now in their code too. This gene is located on the 20th chromosome. It's Har-1 because Har or Horus was in fact, the first. Tefnut, Tafnatat, extraterrestrial, Nut, Nutit, extraterrestrial, Isis, Ashtat, extraterrestrial, Horus, Har, Demi deity. Now, most of those refer to as white or mulattoes. Let me explain. The definition of the word mulattoes is defined by the American Heritage, 3rd edition is 1. A person having one white and one black parent. 2. A person of mixed white and black ancestry. Spanish, from Arabic muwalad, person of mixed race, from walada, to engender, give birth. Either all mulattoes accept the term mule, or they must refer to the next definition in Webster's dictionary, a person of mixed Caucasian and Negro ancestry. These 8 words hold the key to identifying true mulattoes. This may come as a surprise, but Caucasians, as described by ethnologists, those who study the origins of people, are classified as Caucasoids. Scientists define Caucasoids by specific traits, starting with blonde hair, which ranges from yellow to white. The term blonde originates from Middle English blubed, Old French, bladen, and has Germanic roots. Therefore, To be considered a Caucasoid or Caucasian, one must have blonde hair. The next defining trait is blue eyes. The word blue comes from Middle English bleu, derived from Old French bleu, which also traces back to Germanic origins. This means that, by scientific definition, a true Caucasian or Caucasoid would possess blue irises. It is important to note that these defining characteristics, blonde hair and blue eyes, are of Germanic origin. The word German itself comes from Middle English Germain, Old French, and Latin Germanus, which means an offshoot. The real question is, an offshoot from whom? Historically, only Scandinavians, those from Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, and the Faroe Islands, are naturally blonde-haired and blue-eyed. If you have these features but are not of Scandinavian descent, your genetic lineage still traces back to Scandinavia. This suggests that individuals with blonde hair and blue eyes, including those born in America, are rooted in Scandinavian ancestry. Interestingly, even among them, some are considered mulattoes, particularly in the United States. Now, in his book Making of the White Man, by Paul Laurence Guthrie, he makes clear other people's opinions about the origin of the white race. On page 25, it states, another tradition, recorded in the Book of Enoch, also fits this familiar pattern and states that Lamech's wife gave birth to a white-skinned son. Lamech's white-skinned son likewise ends up in the Caucasus Mountains, on Mount Ararat. Lamech, the boy's father, described the child as changed, unlike and of a different nature than those who had lived before him. As in the other accounts, the newly arrived child's skin is said to have been white as snow and his hair was blonde. On page 45 it says, Chapter 1 introduced a number of traditional accounts of the ancient world. One of the accounts, the Shah-Nama, talked about the birth of an unusual white-skinned child who had driven away and abandoned in the vicinity of the Caucasus Mountains. On page 46, he states, Diodorus, the ancient writer, admits to having copied his account from even earlier records that had been kept by the ancient Egyptians. In Book 40, Diodorus says that following the appearance ruddy-skinned strangers, Egypt began to suffer a multitude of troubles and diseases. According to the words of Diodorus, the original people of the land decided that the only way to put an end to their troubles was to round up all of the strangers that they could find to drive them out, across the border. Concerning what happened, Diodorus writes, when in ancient times a pestilence arose in Egypt, the common people ascribed their trouble to the workings of a divine agency, for indeed with many strangers of all sorts dwelling in their midst, the natives of the land surmised that unless they removed the foreigners, their troubles would never be resolved. At once, therefore, the aliens were driven from the country. Page 80 says, in Prehistoric Antiquities of the Aryan Peoples, Dr. O. Schrader also discusses the ancient use of subterranean dwellings, dwellings dug in the earth, the existence of which is recorded amongst numerous Indo-Germanic peoples, and which afforded protection alike against the summer's heat and the winter's cold. On page 82 it says, in a commentary on the devils, as they appear in the ancient Zendavesta Mn Dala explains that the devils of Mazandaran were simply the barbarians who later poured down in great numbers and pillaged the possessions of the Iranians. In this same regard, the Shah-Nama recalls a time when the hills of Mazandaran were inhabited by a race of what is called white devils. As to the real identity of the white devils of Mazandaran, A.G. Warner explains that the Shah-Nama uses the term white demon as a personification of the Mazandaranis, rendered pale by the unhealthiness of their climate. Paul Laurence Guthrie makes reference to all these different authors who have their own opinions of who the white man is. However, if they just take the time to read Leviticus 13 and 14 in the original Aramaic, Hebrew, language, that it was revealed in, they would see that this quote tells them who these white men were. It talks about Moses cleaning up the Amorites or Canaanites. If he says that his book is about the history, tradition and the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as it clearly says on the cover of his book, tell him he is wrong, because if he was a true follower he would know that Elijah Muhammad in lesson 1 to 14 was calling these Amorite people of Genesis 15:13 filthy, diseased lepers. Elijah Muhammad knew and taught in Message to the Black Man, page 28, that Moses was going to the Canaanites to clean them up, Leviticus 13 and 14. The Jews, they have the Talmud, published by the so-called Jews, Jebusites of Canaan, who appeared in the 16th century AD, stating that the descendants of Ham are cursed by being black. It depicted Ham as a sinful man, and his descendants as degenerates. This notion persisted during the Middle Ages. According to those rabbis, Ham was supposed to have emasculated Noah, who then cursed him. Noah, as they say, cursed Ham by saying since he was unable to beget the fourth son, whose descendants would have been servants to Shem and Japheth as well as Ham, it would now have to be Ham's firstborn, Canaan, whom Ham's brothers would enslave. Since Ham disabled Noah by doing ugly things, in the blackness of the night, Canaan's children shall be black because his lips jested at Noah's misfortune, his children shall go naked, and their male organs shall be shamefully elongated. The men of this race are Negroes, and their forefather, Canaan, commanded them to love theft and fornication and to band together in hatred of their masters, never to tell the truth. Want to stop right here for a moment. If you listen to this statement made by the so-called Jews during the 16th century, you will realize that this statement does not make any kind of scientific sense. This statement is not based on any facts. The first thing I will deal with is, the descendants of Ham are cursed by being black. Ham's descendants were not cursed to be black. Biblically, the curse that was placed on Ham's fourth son, Labanah, Canaan, was servitude, and the curse of leprosy is in their own book of Leviticus. It is a known fact that Ham was a Moor, and all of his descendants before him were Moors as well. Just by virtue of the fact that the meaning of the name Ham, burnt black, in the Aramaic, Hebrew, language, that alone lets you know what color he was. These scholars are basing their teachings on what they want to believe instead of right knowledge, the facts. They deal with myths. They try to tell you that the first man was Adam and that he was created 10,000 years ago, when fossils can be found dating as far back as 20 million years ago, proving that there was life on the planet before Adam even came into existence. And that the first man, or rather woman on earth, was a Moor. These so-called scholars claim that their traditions grew out of a need of the so-called Jews, Jebusites of Canaan, to rationalize their putting down of Canaan, which was supposed to be validated historically by Utnapishtim, Noah's curse. In other words, to be called a Hamite was something of a curse in itself, and if one was Moorish, he was automatically a Hamite, according to these scholars. They imply that the words, "a servant of servants shall he be," clearly meant that the Moorish man was the slave to all mankind. There was to be no guilt advocating the enslavement of Moors. To further ease his conscience, by identifying the Moorish man as a Hamite, and kept the Moorish man in the family according to the so-called Jews, Jebusites of Canaan, biblical story of the creation. He knew enough to change the pronunciation from Ham to Ham, which is associated with proudness, as well as pig, pork, or the swine of a filthy thing, as in the ham that is eaten. According to the American Heritage Dictionary, 3rd edition, ham means the thigh of animal, especially a hog, the region behind the knee. The so-called Jew, the Christians, and the Red Arabs governed the slave trade. Slavery increased the riches of the Western world. Mankind, or kind of a man, grew more reluctant to look at the Moorish slave and to see him as a human being. At this point, those who follow the religion of Abraham, from Ur, fire, of Chaldea, land of mighty demons, were very anxious to find some kind of proof that would ultimately exclude the Moors from the family of man.